Welcome to a Monday edition of Beyond the Arc. I'm your host, John Gonzalez, alongside our NBA insider, Bill Ryder, and live from, well, not live, recorded from not Palm Springs. You're in Joshua Tree. Ashley Nicole Moss on location.
It's a Cali edition today, guys.
I'm actually very excited. The eclipse is happening, guys. So I feel like I'm in the perfect space to witness it, to enjoy it. I'm very excited. I was afraid I was going to miss it, but I'm not. So I'm excited. Can I just say, the stars out here are absolutely crazy. It's so clear. You can see like every constellation. I haven't seen many people though. So
you're out in the middle of nowhere.
I have no interest in the solar eclipse.
When is it?
I don't. 11.
It's at 11:15-ish.
Okay, so we'll be done in time for that.
They told me when I was a kid I was going to go blind, and it damaged me. I'm afraid I'm going to look up. Yeah, no, you didn't hear this when you were a kid.
But
if you look directly at the solar eclipse, you go blind.
Well, you're not supposed to do that. Yeah.
Right.
You're supposed to have glasses.
I was in kindergarten. They scared the crap out of me.
Just quick
Ashley, I feel like this is your department, so I'll ask you about like the energy surrounding the solar eclipse, because somebody told me that like animals and people and things kind of like act strangely during this. And literally mere moments before we started recording the show, a bird flew into my house, and
we have a few animals.
Yeah, and it didn't make it. Kind of suicide mission. No.
The Dr. Dolittle over here. What is
I don't feel great about it. It's terrible for me. Worse for the bird.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's bad for the bird.
Well, yeah, they do say that like animals get like disoriented. A lot of animals also it just throws them off. It just throws off like the gravitational pull and things like that. It throws off like their time of, because if you're nocturnal and it's daytime but it's nighttime, like it kind of throws you to like for a loop. But yeah, I mean rest in peace to that bird.
R.I.P.
It's gonna get dark today. It's gonna get straight dark.
So the sun is gonna. Well, in LA, it's gonna be partial, so we won't see the full. I think the only people who see like the full eclipse is like from Dallas to like upstate New York. They'll see complete darkness. You'll only see like partial darkness. The moon's gonna cover the sun.
So it's like being a Bucks fan.
Eclipse, Bill, you should take a look. It's the last eclipse for I think like 25 years.
Don't look directly at it, Bill.
I don't want to be like that bird.
Yeah, the poor bird. All right, well, we've gotten the eclipse and bird talk out of the way. Also, I want to give a quick shout to Philadelphia legend Dawn Staley for completing the undefeated season with South Carolina and winning another national championship. Very, very exciting. Always love when Philly legends make good. In the event that Nick Nurse stops coaching the Sixers, I would like Dawn Staley to take over.
Hey, can you have a little sympathy for the Iowa people on the show, John? It's not all about Philadelphia, okay? Some of us grew up in Iowa.
You made it to the championship game, Bill.
I know. I like how John is claiming a South Carolina win. Way to go, buddy. You did
I'm claiming a Dawn Staley win.
Good job. That's back-to-back losses. I don't know. She looked so heartbroken. Although Staley was so classy afterwards. And
she was.
You guys crediting for everything Caitlin Clark had carried. It was my wife, who's not a sports fan, started crying out of emotion when Staley couldn't speak in the post game. You see, like immediately after she won, Staley couldn't get the words out, and my son was all red and angry in the face because he wanted Iowa to win. My wife was crying, so it was very cool. It was very cool.
Man, the solar eclipse really is messing with everybody.
Yeah, you thought Staley's from Philly.
Look at that,
Philly people.
All right. Including the Bucks. Great transition, Ashley. I appreciate that. We have so much basketball to talk about. We encourage everybody, by the way, to download and follow us. Leave us a 5-star review. It helps people find us. But there's a ton of things that happen in the NBA, which is ostensibly while we're here to talk about. Over the weekend, a ton of movement.
John doesn't like the chit chat. John is not. Is that you saying you don't like the chit chat? I chit chat.
I love the chit chat. But we do have to chit chat about the Bucks and the Eastern Conference, Ashley's Knicks, the Sixers, all of the NBA stuff that we're here to talk about. Later in the show, we're going to go through the Western Conference playoff picture. But first, we're going to start with the East. We know all 20 playoff teams, gang, but only the Celtics are locked into their seed. And we're going to start with the Milwaukee Bucks, who lost at home to Ashley's Knicks on Sunday. They have now lost 4 in a row. 6 of their last 7. Those 4 in a row, by the way, are the Wiz, the Grizz, the Raptors, which are just horrendous losses. And then the Knicks yesterday ran them off their floor. After the first 3, Doc said that it was inexcusable. After the Knicks loss, they evidently held a team meeting and a film session with top veteran rotation players where they were, quote, allowed to speak their mind. That's according to a report from The Athletic. Gang, not good times for Milwaukee.
Let me throw another stat at you too, John, because this one blew my mind. The first 3 losses are the first time in 30 years that a team has lost 3 consecutive games where they have been double-digit favorites in each of those games. So it is the worst 3-game skid before they lost to the Knicks in a generation in the NBA. If I can just add that on to put into context how hard it was for Doc Rivers to lead this group to those 3 and now 4 consecutive losses.
I mean,
incredibly bad.
We spoke about this collectively. We've spoken about it in our individual pods that we've recorded in our, alternating groups. But I just feel like, here's the thing. Adrian Griffin was not a phenom when it came to coaching, right? You wouldn't put him in the category of Greg Popovich, of Phil Jackson, of Steve
He didn't have
Kerr.
a second.
But right, I'm saying you wouldn't put him in that category, but he was getting the job done. He was successful. The team looked good. Of course, defensively, there was room for improvement, but I'm of the belief that could have figured itself out. You could have brought a defensive powerhouse consultant in to kind of help maybe where Adrian Griffin was a little bit weak on the defensive side. Like, there were things that you could have done to remedy the situation, but what's the important part of a season? And that is winning games. They were doing it. So the fact that you make that change so early in the season to go with Doc Rivers, who, listen, I know Doc Rivers presents himself defensive powerhouse, blah, 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 whatever. You know what he is when it comes to his coaching ability. You know who he is when it comes to his character and taking responsibility for losses. I don't understand what Milwaukee thought they were going to accomplish when the resume of this man exist in the world. The leopard doesn't change its spots. I'm so confused by this.
They are 15-17 under Doc Rivers. So 2 games under 500. They're just 1 game up on the Knicks and the Magic. Their defense, to your point, Ashley, has improved slightly under Doc, but still on the perimeter, brutal. They can't guard anybody on the perimeter. It's part of the reason why they brought in Patrick Beverley. It hasn't helped at all. In their last 10 games, while this skid is happening that Bill mentioned, they are 18th in offense and 15th in defense. This is not a good team right now.
Let me ask you guys a question. So they had a bad start under Doc, and then he had a really good run post All-Star game, and now they're having a really bad run again. And I think we're all aligned that we are not Doc Rivers believers. What would Doc Rivers and the Bucks have to do this year to change your mind? Like, for you to say, okay, for me, it's make the finals. I don't think it's happening. Well, John, Ash, what would have to happen for you to say on this podcast, all right, I'm wrong, Doc Rivers' hire was a good idea?
Here's the thing. Doc Rivers, in order for this situation, it's not about the talent, because the talent is there on paper. None of us will argue that. For me, my issue is that Doc Rivers is who we think he is. You have to fix the character of this team, and it starts with the head coach. John and I spoke about it on the pod we did together. This is a man who is losing to teams, is coaching a team, is leading a team that is losing to teams that he should beat. The G League Grizzlies, the Wizards. And instead of facing the media and saying, look, this is on me. I'm the leader of this team and I have to figure it out. You're blaming the travel squad. You're blaming the water boy and the ball boy and the guy who puts the towels in them. That is a problem. It's a character issue with this team, not a talent issue. And I don't know if you can fix it, because Doc Rivers is who we think he is and who he has always been.
John, how far would the Bucks have to go for you to think Doc Rivers was the right guy for the job this year?
Conference finals.
Really?
Not so much the right guy for the job, because I'm not entirely sold that he's the right guy for any job. But for me to look at this team and go, there's something salvageable, I would say conference finals. Look, yesterday was huge. Those games that Ashley mentioned, the Wiz, the Grizz, and the Raptors were incredibly, incredibly bad losses, and he should have taken ownership. Although, again, they held a film session, Ash, so I guess that's something. Yesterday I thought was the most disappointing one, though, because you had Dame, you had Giannis, and then you had Middleton until he left with quote unquote mouth trauma in the second quarter, because he got hit in the face and he lost a tooth, so he didn't come back. But you had all 3 of those guys out there, and you're at home and you're playing a conference rival and you're jockeying for position and you get run off your floor. and you give up 122 points to the Knicks, who are, they've lost guys too. So that was, I think, a really, like, as red flags and alarms go, all of that should be sounding for the Bucks right now, because as I mentioned, they're only one game up on the Knicks and the Magic. You have the Magic beat the Bulls on Sunday. The Knicks beat the Bucks. Brunson went for 43. All of a sudden, that second seed, that third seed, fourth seed, those are all in play right now.
The Bucks are just very, very lucky that they play in the Eastern Conference. I'll just say that. They're very, very lucky that they don't play on the West Coast, because the way that they have been just falling apart in ways that they should not be falling apart down the stretch at this point of the season is just absolutely abysmal. I already have concerns with this team just because of health, and we spoke about this, a bunch of different episodes. If it's not Giannis, it's Middleton. It's Giannis and Middleton not being available. Then you also have an issue with Damian Lillard and Giannis. Dame seems to play better when Giannis doesn't play, vice versa. It's just, there's so many intricate details that are already kind of big question marks on how that's going to translate in the playoffs. But for me, the way that they have been losing games, because I look at it like this. Yes, there's going to be intricate details and logistics and things that are off. But when you have Giannis, when you have Dame, when you have Chris Middleton, when you have the team that this Milwaukee Bucks team has, you should be winning games against the Wizards and the Grizzlies. There's no reason you should be losing it, even on your worst day. Even on your worst day.
The wheels have really come off here. I want to, because you guys are two of the more noted Doc Rivers skeptics here. What is your Schadenfreude level of this?
Oh, I mean,
how much are you enjoying this?
I love John, this is like to write something and have everybody hate you for it. And then 2 weeks later, have a look. And then it's really hard not to go back and just respond to everybody on X Twitter. Hi, my level of pleasure, Ash, is yours too. I actually am torn because I have family from Milwaukee. I'm from that part of the country. And I really I know a lot of people in that front office and in that scouting department. So I actually like the organization because I just like the human beings who make it up. And I don't know Giannis, but I interviewed him when he was young. I like him. Dame's great. I can't stand Doc Rivers. On a personal level, I don't like Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers is a guy. So Doc will throw people under the bus in his own organization. Lo and behold, he does it to reporters too. Now, it's been a long time, but I once broke a story that he didn't like, and the guy called me a liar every day for 3 weeks on radio in LA, every day, at every press conference by name. And then when he said, "Oh, okay, well, it was true," never got an apology, wouldn't meet. So I'm not. I love everything about it. Even though I feel bad for Milwaukee. Just when people treat you badly and unfairly, you enjoy watching them fail. It's amazing to me how many people in the last week have reached out to me from around the NBA. I've gotten so much information on stuff not related to Doc because people just want to call me and talk. About Doc Rivers. People do like him.
I actually, on the other side, I don't have any issues against Doc Rivers. I've never met the man. I don't have any personal stories with him. I'm a huge Dame fan. So what's happening with Milwaukee actually is very sad to me because I want Dame to win and I want him to win really badly. But I just feel like, in a sense, I feel like this is warranted because it's like Doc Rivers is a cat with 9 lives. And he doesn't really deserve these 9 lives because he constantly shows us he's incapable of getting the job done. And I don't like people who are messy. I like transparent individuals. And I don't really like how Doc Rivers does business. I feel like he's messy. I feel like he's underhanded. And I don't respect it. Again, I don't have a personal vendetta against him, but his character that he has showcased in multiple situations with multiple different organizations, I personally don't respect it.
One high-level NBA executive yesterday I talked to, I thought made a really good point. Now, full disclosure, this person also does not like Doc Rivers. And Ash, like you, this person thinks that he's a charlatan who just keeps getting jobs he doesn't deserve and has fooled people. So this person is, that's that person's context. But the point he made, and I thought it was really good because it rung true with me, is when you have 2 superstars that have just started playing together, whether it's in Phoenix or it's in Milwaukee this year, or it's the Heat back in the day, or it's Brooklyn when Durant and those guys were there, there's massive pressure and there's an expectation that they win even more quickly sometimes than stars. It takes stars to gel together. And that in that situation, he said, you need a head coach who creates calm, who can speed up the process of trust among 2 guys who maybe like and respect each other but don't know how to play together, who can manage properly in the locker room, and especially with their stars, all of the frustration and dysfunction that can come out of just people expecting to win right away, and it takes a while. His point was, if you were to create in a laboratory the exact wrong people manager as a head coach to manage that situation, it would be Doc Rivers. And his point was, whatever the X and O's, whatever the talent, whatever they're missing on the perimeter, because of just the tension as a basketball players between Giannis and Lillard to figure it out, and the fact that it is now Doc Rivers whose job is, his task is to fix it, he said they're doomed, at least this year, because Doc will just add fuel to the fire, will not take responsibility, won't have the difficult conversations, won't do what has to happen to make those guys be comfortable. He'll create more discomfort just to make himself look good. Again, this is two guys who don't love Doc Rivers talking, but John, I thought it was an interesting point in that Doc Rivers is the guy that throws people on the bus at a team that needs that to be the opposite, maybe more than most, outside of Phoenix, maybe in the NBA right now.
Independent of what the Bucks need right now, and I hear what both of you are saying about, the reasons why you're unsure that Doc is the guy for the job or why you might not like Doc. Now that he is not the Sixers head coach, I love Doc. I've always loved Doc. He is tremendous content. He, like, no matter where he goes for what we do, he's amazing. So Godspeed to the Milwaukee Bucks, who, by the way, there's another team in the Eastern Conference that we haven't talked about that if it wasn't for the Bucks, we'd be talking about their collapse right now. And that's the Cleveland Cavaliers, who have lost 3 in a row and 7 of their last 10. No Donovan Mitchell yesterday. They were up 26 points on the Clippers. They blew that lead. They only had 38 points after the half. They've now fallen to 5th place in the Eastern Conference. They're just 1 game up on the Pacers. They're still projected to finish 3rd, but that whole grouping in the East, and Ash, you were like, oh, the Bucks are so lucky that they're not in the West. Everybody in the East, aside from the Celtics, is lucky that they're in the East, because that whole grouping is just, including your Knicks, is
especially your Knicks.
It's a prayer. It's a Hail Mary. That whole group is nobody knows what to expect.
The Knicks have been cooking, and we have been dealing with a lot. Do not rope me in with the rest of these unusual suspects. All right, leave me out of the conversation. All right,
they're 5-5. What are you talking about cooking? They're 5-5 over the last 10. They won 1 game
over the course of a season. Over the course of the season, we've been dealing with a lot, and we've still been winning games. Do not put me in that category, John. Leave me out of it.
My point here is that if you're the Cavs, how panicked are you? Are you Bucks level panicked right now?
Yeah, they're the Bucks without expectations, Ash, right? I mean, they are Milwaukee without the expectations and without the dysfunctional head coach.
Well, okay, so in that way of thinking, I would say there's a yes and a no, right? Because I say yes, obviously, because you have Donovan Mitchell there for now. You have a pretty well-constructed team. Cleveland, as we know, has dealt with a lot post-LeBron era and trying to recreate some of that magic. So there's been little, silver linings of a possibility of a team that can be competitive for a few seasons, a few years. And something has always gone wrong, break in some way, shape, or form, right? On the other side of that, I think the teammates in the locker room know, the fans know. I don't know if ownership knows, but they should know. Donovan Mitchell's not staying there, right? So in this situation, yes, you would want to win while you have him, but how high are your expectations really when the guy who's the most pivotal part of your organization right now, 99.9% sure he's not going to be there next year?
I brought this up on Twitter, and Cavs fans came for me. I said that he looks like he's in a hostage video every time he gets interviewed. And they were like, what are you talking about? He loves it here. He was on the bench, like rallying the team. I'm like, yeah, how's that working out?
Sensible fans know he's not going to be there next year. Let me rephrase.
And sensible GMs. That also might be part of the reason they're not playing well. I mean, if you have a team that is led by a guy that doesn't want to be there, and if maybe we're all wrong, but most people around the NBA, as Ash said, think he's going to New York or going to the Lakers. He's going somewhere else. If that is the overwhelming view in the NBA, right or wrong, that's certainly the overwhelming view within that locker room. So that those sorts of things have an impact on a team too. And Donovan Mitchell, his responsibility is to hide that as best he can until he leaves, right? So that these guys don't feel like they're playing with a leader who doesn't want to lead them. Maybe because what's happened to Cleveland is inexplicable. It doesn't make a lot of sense. I know there's been some injuries. There's been injuries to everybody. But on paper, it should be a really good basketball team. They have the pieces, especially when Donovan Mitchell's out there and playing. maybe the problem is just the fact that he is a hostage, and it's hard to be led by a guy that feels like he's in Shawshank prison instead of on, the coast of Mexico or whatever.
I mean, blowing that lead yesterday was absolutely
Ugh.
disastrous for them. And, earlier in the season, things weren't really going great for them. They started off a little bumpy. There was rumors that JB Bickerstaff could be out the door. And then they got on that hot streak and went 17-1. And like Bickerstaff got to stick around. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, hey, the Cavs are a fun story. But man, the way that they're closing out this regular season is not great for them.
But I think also real quick, earlier in the season, it wasn't as front and center that Donovan Mitchell more than likely won't come back. I think that there was I think it was a little bit more on the fence. Like there were people who still believe like he's not going to be there next year, but I think it was a little bit more up for interpretation because it seemed like he really wanted to be there. They were exciting. They were playing well together. And as the season has progressed, to both of your points, he looks miserable as the season has progressed, which has then shifted the conversation like, yeah, he's not coming back, which can be a domino effect to everything that we're kind of seeing.
Cavs fans, you can find her at Ash Nicole Moss. Make sure that you check her out on
Milwaukee,
on Twitter.
She's not wrong.
We're going to take a quick break, and then we have to get into that 6, 7, 8 play-in grouping that's getting very, very interesting in the Eastern Conference. That's next.
The blackout mystery remains.
Welcome to March Madness. Whoa! You just never know in the tournament who is going to shine.
Stream March Madness live on any device, anywhere, and be ready for anything.
Welcome back to Beyond the Arc. I'm John Gonzalez. Ashley Nicole Moss is here. Bill Ryder is here. If you're listening to us on a podcast, thank you. You can also check us out on YouTube at Beyond the Arc. CBS, subscribe to our page, hit the like button, leave a comment, do all that good stuff. All right. The 6, 7, 8 in the Eastern Conference is getting interesting. Yesterday, Bill and I were going back and forth watching the Sixers without Embiid because they were on a back-to-back. So
what a game.
So a couple of things here. Sixers go, they bring Embiid back. They win 2 in a row. Then they have a decision on the weekend. Are they going to play him against the Grizzlies or are they going to play him against the Spurs? They decided to play him against the Grizzlies, despite the fact that Jaren Jackson Jr. did not play, and they were starting G.G. Jackson. And then if I gave you 100 guesses, you guys wouldn't be able to name the other 4 starters.
And that's despite the fact that the Spurs have been playing well lately. The Spurs have actually been a tough team lately.
Thank you, Bill. So I'm trying to figure out why they played Embiid on Saturday against the Grizzlies and not on Sunday against the Spurs, but that's the way they went. So it goes to double overtime. They get 52 points from Tyrese Maxey, which is a new career high. They have now won 5 in a row. And don't look now, but the Philadelphia 76ers half game up on the Heat for the 7 spot and just 1 back of the Pacers for the 6 spot to get out of the play-in. It's getting very interesting.
I mean, what you want me to say?
We're on a podcast. I want you to say something.
Okay. Here's the thing. I'm not discrediting how the 76ers have been playing. Again, we're talking about the Eastern Conference, which is in comparison to the West, not as competitive, not as stacked, right? So it's not as difficult to kind of maneuver through the rankings and get in a better position when it seems like a lot of these teams are falling apart down the stretch, whether it's injury, whether it's just internal issues, you name it, the East is dealing with it, right? I still, though, am on the side of I don't know if I would have brought Joel Embiid back for a 7 seed spot, for a 6 seed
even
spot.
Now, even after watching
them? Because I'm thinking bigger picture. I'm thinking more long term. We spoke about this on Spotlight about a week and a half ago, and they brought up a graphic of every single injury that Joel Embiid has sustained in his career.
Yeah,
going back to his rookie year. It is extremely long. Then you go ahead and add on the fact that he has made it very, very clear he wants to play in the Olympics. I don't know, but if I had to guess, I would say he's not 100% healthy. He's healthy enough to return, but as we know, being healthy enough to return and play does not mean you're 100% healthy. And no one is in this part of the season, right? You add the Olympics. I just feel like there is a very strong possibility that the 76ers could be setting themselves back before next season even starts. And at what cost? Do you see an Eastern Conference Finals appearance in the
Why not?
forecast? Do you see a finals appearance in the forecast? Do you see winning the finals?
And John has done such a 180. You're
No,
such a
not,
bandwagon.
look,
You're
look,
so.
hold on. Let me speak for myself here. Why not an Eastern Conference
do.
Finals appearance?
Do
I
you
mean, honestly,
realistically believe that?
Well,
though? Do you
I've been saying that for
realistically believe
weeks.
it?
somebody,
Of course
if
they
they
can.
avoid, exactly what, if we just went through all of the teams in the Eastern Conference, we've said this 1,000 times. If they can avoid the Celtics in the first round, as long as they don't end up in the 8th seed, literally anybody else can get to the conference finals. And I think the Sixers have as good a shot as the Bucks, the Cavs, the Knicks, the Magic. I mean, I think they've got a better chance than the Pacers.
The key word, though, is if you can. Here's the thing. If the 76ers were already in a playoff spot, whether 1 through 6, wherever it is, if they were already in a playoff spot, bringing Joel Embiid back to me would have made more sense. You already had secured a playoff spot, wherever that playoff spot is. But you're talking about a team that's technically still in the play-in, trying to get into the playoff, and may or may not even drop even lower in the play-in. In that situation, you may not be able to avoid Boston. And if you don't, you brought Joel Embiid back for what exactly?
So, Ash, I think you make great points. I just take your points and have the opposite conclusion because you're right. He's been injury riddled in his entire career. It is a brutal list of the ailments that have felled the guy. But for me, it's then let's take as many bites at the apple because there are no guarantees how many times he's going to be healthy this time of year. There are no guarantees if he is healthy that they're going to have the right team around him, right? The NBA moves quickly. People move. You never know. There's no guarantees that he's going to be able to play till he's 35 or 37 or 34. Who knows? So I hear you, and I'm with you on Embiid's history of injuries shape my approach. It just, for me, would shape it in the opposite way. And I've been, in fairness, unlike John, I've been saying this the whole time that was a window for the Sixers. There is a window, in part because the East is not particularly strong. And in part because I think it's just easy to forget when we get captive of whatever moment we're in, that when Embiid played before he came back, we had forgotten they were the 2nd or 3rd or 4th best team easily in the NBA over a very big sample size.
So,
And
they were really good.
Let me play devil's advocate real quick, right? Let's say it is Boston. Okay, let's say that the unfortunate reality of situation is 76ers and Boston match up first round. Let's say something happens in that scenario. Now Joel Embiid is set back going into next season, and you start next season already at a deficit. Same team, same head coach. Would it have been worth it to you?
Yeah, you got to go for it.
Like here's why my thinking changed on it. And Bill and I talked about it last week. When he came back, he put on the Degeneration X shirt and like turned it around so it said "suck it" on the front and the whole bit, right? But he was talking about his mental health and how bad this was for him, and how
Which I can agree with. Yeah, I can understand that.
So but when he kept talking, he was like, "Look, this sucked for me. I've had a lot of injuries. This put me in a really bad place. I couldn't wait to get back." And his bottom line was, "I've missed a lot of time. I love basketball. I just want to play whenever I have a chance." Fine, done. That's it for me. Once I hear that, I'm like, all right, roll him out there. Like the East is a disgrace. They have a shot. The guy wants to play. What are we talking about?
They have a shot. That's the big thing.
I hear the mental health aspect, and I'm not arguing that at all. I can only imagine, having something taken from you it's such a huge part of your identity and who you are. And I've spoken to athletes, who have shared that before. But you also have to, sometimes as an organization and as a team, you have to go ahead and save a player from themselves. And I'm not saying Joel Embiid is that far gone. Just overall, sometimes you have to think bigger picture and not immediate satisfaction. And I think sometimes, you think immediate satisfaction and then you kind of wish in hindsight that you would have thought long-term. And maybe it won't happen with Joel Embiid, but we've seen it happen across the spectrum for players. You've seen it happen with Klay Thompson. You saw it happen with Kevin Durant. Remember KD came back during last year, I believe, with the Phoenix Suns, not 100%, and he re-aggravated his situation and then was out and missed even more time. Sometimes you just have to think bigger picture, long term, especially when the end goal, which is what everybody wants, a championship, a conference finals appearance, is really not the highest of probability that it happens. I'm just in the mindset, like I'd rather have my Joel Embiid, my focus of my team healthy for an entire season than to rush him for a fraction of a season that's not even going to amount in what we really want, which is the championship.
How are you going to tell him? How are you going to tell him no, though?
I mean, sometimes, like I said, sometimes you have to save a player from themselves. Like, what is he going to do? Go put himself out there? He has to get cleared.
Yeah, but
I
okay,
mean, he
so
looks
okay,
okay.
He
he
does
does.
look
He
okay.
looks really good.
He looks
He's
okay.
good.
But that's what I'm saying. This may not 100% apply to Joel Embiid directly. I'm just saying overall. Sometimes I think that organizations, and I get it, because like you said, Bill, you don't know how long you'll have a player for. You don't know how long they'll be available. You don't know how long they'll be healthy. I just think that sometimes teams across the NBA work in immediate satisfaction instead of thinking long term. And I think a lot of the times that ends up being a mistake. That's all.
You're right. I just don't think it's that time. And just looking at I think they're the second best team in the East right now in a vacuum. I know it's not a vacuum.
I'm not doing this with you. I'm not doing. Bye.
In a 7-game series, I take Philly right now over any team that's not Boston, including your New York Knicks.
Over
you were out of your mind.
I don't think I am.
Team.
And I'll put money on that.
You guys on this podcast have a tendency to catch up to me a couple of weeks later. I'm just going to let you guys catch up to me in a couple of weeks.
You have lost your mind. I will put money on it.
I want to see if they can get out of the play-in first. It's still a long shot.
Right, but I'm saying in a vacuum. India
is effectively up 2 because they have the tiebreaker, and they close Toronto at Cleveland, that's cratering, and then home against the Nets. And then the Sixers, they've got the Pistons, and then the Magic, and then the Nets. So Sixers need to win out. Indy probably needs to lose 2 of those 3. They only have Sixers only have about a 16% chance to move up, but still possible. All right,
you're having a different conversation. The conversation we're having is, what are Philly? Are they good enough to go for it? And whatever they are good enough. I think that's the conversation.
I just would like to see them move up and definitely avoid the Celtics. And then I think they absolutely have a shot to make it to the conference finals. I don't think that there's really any question of that. The East is an absolute disaster right now.
This is true.
All right, going to take a quick break, and then we're going to do the West on the other side. That's next.
It's time for the madness.
And CBS Sports HQ has your wall-to-wall NCAA tournament coverage. We got your game highlights, expert analysis, and insights all the way to the Final Four. Start and end your March Madness coverage with CBS Sports HQ.
All right, back on Beyond the Arc, John, Ashley, and Bill. Going to start with the Wolves. That's another team that you guys have been very skeptical of. LeBron, no LeBron yesterday.
You guys, don't put me in Bill's
no, it's me. I am skeptical. I am skeptical.
No LeBron yesterday. They ended up beating the Lakers. AD had to go out with an eye injury. They're optimistic that he's going to be okay. But right now, Minnesota Timberwolves level with the Nuggets. They've got the Wiz on Tuesday. Then they're at Denver on Wednesday, which could very well decide the Western Conference, and they're home against the Hawks and the Suns. Believe it or not, and I'm sure that you guys will not believe this, but they're the slight favorites to win the Western Conference right now, according to the models, Bill.
I mean, again, we've had this talked 28 different ways. Winning the Western Conference in the regular season and winning the Western Conference in the postseason are totally different things. And
totally different.
Yeah, and the reality, but in the sense that it's
still impressive, though.
It's not the same level. It is impressive, and Ant Edwards has been awesome, and I'm looking forward to our bet probably happening. It looks like one of those 3 teams
maybe happening
between Phoenix, Golden State, Lakers. I mean, I think it's certainly in the realm of possibilities. Yes, you're right. I am skeptical about Minnesota when we get to the playoffs. We're not in the playoffs. They've been great even without Cat, and it's extraordinarily.
And Cat, Ashley, looks like there was a report today that they are optimistic that he will be back before the playoffs.
Okay, still not going to help him. Like,
wrap him up.
It's still not going to help them. And I don't say that as like a knock to him. I just think the West is that good. I still think it's Denver's conference to lose. It's Denver's conference to win. And then when you go down the list, there would be a few teams that I would still put ahead of Minnesota just because I like the way that the IQ of the team is. I think that Minnesota sometimes gets in their own way, and we've seen them do that many times before. The Suns are dealing with issues. If I could still have, Devin Booker and Kevin Durant on the floor at the same time, I would still put them above the Minnesota Timberwolves in a 7-game series just because I don't think that, you can ignore that duo regardless of all the issues that the Suns have been dealing with. I still think for all that the Clippers are dealing with, I still think I would give them an edge against Minnesota. OKC, I still would give an edge against Minnesota. Like, there's a bunch of teams that even after the Nuggets, I would still put ahead of the Timberwolves. So winning the West, highly impressive because we know how competitive that conference is, how much talent is out there. But overall, winning the conference, win the playoffs, or coming out of the conference in the playoffs, I don't know if I give that to Minnesota. I don't have that much.
So
they're just gonna have to keep showing you guys over and over and over again that they're a good team.
I'm not saying they're not a good team.
I have a question.
They're good to make it out of the West to go to the finals. Good.
So
I mean, it's still Denver. Denver's still the heavy favorite, I think. But if you're going to say to me, you just rattled off a bunch of teams, and I could knock down each of them because they've got issue. I mean, look, you know how high I've been on OKC. SGA and Jalen Williams are hurt, and not like that's a problem for them. The Clippers have a Kawhi issue and needed a supreme Herculean effort from PG yesterday to beat the Cavaliers. The Suns just lost at home to the New Orleans Pelicans. Like, they got to get out of the play-in first. I mean, there's issues up and down the Western Conference.
These teams
there are.
These teams flip switches when it comes to the playoffs, and you know that these teams have vets and Hall of Famers who can flip. We've seen the Suns.
What switch has the Suns flipped?
I'm not saying they flipped it yet. What I'm saying is that if anybody can flip a switch and go from having a mediocre season to having an absolutely just mind-blowing playoff appearance season, it's the Suns with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. I still have more faith in Kawhi, Paul George, and James Harden in a 7-game series against Minnesota. Now, if you're asking me, do I think that the Clippers can come out of the West and go to the finals? No. But if you're asking me if I had to pick between the Clippers and the Timberwolves right now in a 7-game series, I'm still leaning towards the Clippers. I just think that they're better overall.
I mean, they have won 7 of the last 10. By the way, Jared Greenberg, who we all know from NBA on TNT and NBA TV, who's a friend of mine, usually disagrees with me on everything, but he wants in on the bet. He wants to buy in for half if Minnesota play. So for those of you listening that don't know, John and I have $1,000.
Is it back on?
We have that's on $1,000 bet. Okay. Minnesota. You have Minnesota in the first round, and I have the Warriors, the Lakers, or the Suns if they play the Timberwolves. Jared wants in as long as it's not the Warriors. If it's the Suns or the Lakers, he wants in for half. Is that acceptable if I sell some of my action?
I mean, it's your action. You can do what you want.
I just want to make sure.
I'm actually very surprised that this bet is still on. I thought this was canceled.
No, I think it's
been on.
It's on. We haven't talked about it in a couple of weeks, but it's still below the surface.
I wasn't feeling great about it when Cat went down, but because they've been so good absent Cat, and they're going to add his offense back into it. Naz Reid has been awesome in that Cat role, and now all of a sudden you move Naz back into the 6-man role. I mean,
could be 6-man of the year after that.
And maybe. And also they've been playing through their defense all season long, and that defense is suffocating. I'll give them a shot against anybody. But I want to talk about
it's a good series.
You just mentioned one of the teams that they could face in the first round, the Lakers, who they just beat. They're now a half game back of the Kings. It looks like we're on a collision course for the play-in game that the NBA desperately wanted to avoid, which is the Lakers against the Golden State Warriors. They have Golden State on Tuesday. The Lakers do. Then they close with at Memphis and then at the New Orleans Pelicans. They only have about an 18% chance to move up.
Lakers?
The Lakers.
That's crazy. The Kings' schedule is brutal.
Yeah, I know.
Their next 3 games are losses, I think, for them.
Well, I mean,
whatever the model is wrong. That's 18%. That's crazy.
18%. That's Basketball Reference's model. Post All-Star break, though, the Lakers have, despite the fact that they lost to the Minnesota Timberwolves last night, they have really looked good offensively. And I wanted to run this past you in case it is Golden State and the Lakers in the loser goes home game. Lakers after the All-Star break, 5th in offensive rating. Golden State Warriors after the All-Star break, 8th in defensive rating. That sounds fun.
I mean, you're right. That is the NBA's nightmare. It's hard for me to look at that in any way other than who do I think would be best positioned to beat the Timberwolves because I have so much money on it. But assuming Anthony Davis is there, right, which we presume he will be, and I know this is unfair, but it's what I thought with it's always something with AD. Like, I'm always worried if he's out there, he's tremendous. But
this season.
He's tremendous. He's a tremendous player. Assuming Anthony Davis, it's one game, right? He's playing and that playing. I think I would. This is a 180 for me. I think I would take the Lakers. I think I would take the Lakers at this stage of things. Although
Ash,
it's one game.
What are you thinking?
Coin flip.
Lakers Warriors.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like we're headed that way.
Are we though?
I'm going Warriors.
It's the most likely outcome for the 9-10.
According to the predictive model, I get it, but if you just look at the schedule and the way that Sacramento's playing and how banged up they are, they could easily. I think they have Portland as their last game, but they've got the Thunder, the Pelicans, and somebody I'm totally forgetting. Like those are games they can lose.
I'm going Warriors. Reason I'm going Warriors, his name is Steph Curry, and I'm also going Warriors, but there's a star next to this. I need Draymond to like not be Draymond for like
slap somebody.
Seconds. I just need him to chill out. Like, I think that the Warriors absolutely could get this done, but Draymond's just been a loose cannon in more ways than he's ever been a loose cannon. I mean, it's just every time he's like covering someone defensively, like I'm almost holding my breath, like, oh my God, please don't let him do something that's going to get him kicked out of this game. Just because that is a direct byproduct to then how hard Steph Curry has to work. But I think Klay Thompson has found his groove. I think Steph Curry, just keeping up with him is an exhausting effort in itself. I think the Warriors have enough to beat the Lakers in a one and done situation. Now, if we're talking long term, I don't know if I believe in the Warriors like I did earlier in the season in the course of a 7-game series. Now, depending on the matchup, I may change my mind, but I am just concerned about Draymond. I am concerned about the games that I've seen the Warriors lose this season that they should have won. I just don't know what happens sometimes with this team. They seem to get in their own way a lot. That's concerning. But against the Lakers, one and done, I'm riding with the Warriors.
What's more reliable, Anthony Davis's health or unreliable, or Draymond Greendism? Which one is a more unreliable?
Which is more volatile?
Over the course of the playoffs?
Draymond.
Yeah, which is more volatile? Draymond. Then AD's health.
Is it?
Wow.
AD has been largely available this year and has played, as Ashley mentioned, really good. Bill, you were talking about the Kings and how you think that they'll end up dropping down. They're at Oklahoma City on Tuesday. Then they're home for the last 3 against New Orleans, Phoenix, and Portland. OKC without SGA and Jalen Williams is a winnable game. The New Orleans and the Phoenix games are really going to decide for them where they end up, I think.
But, I mean, Herter and Monk, it's not like the Kings are – I mean, they're missing key guys too, right? So they're – I mean, you're right. Like, it's not a lock. I just think – I'm looking at the standings. I like the Lakers to get to 8. I like LeBron to be the kind of guy that can close it out. They've played well without LeBron when he hasn't played. Assuming Anthony Davis's eye doesn't become his arm falling off. Like he's obviously really – it's true, Ash.
Yeah. I wanted to mention something else.
Is that too mean?
About the Lakers too. They've been playing considerably better. And as I mentioned, they're 5th in offensive rating after the All-Star break. One of the guys that's been kind of a rock for them since before the trade deadline is D'Angelo Russell, who they were trying to trade, didn't trade, ended up being like a boon for them since then. He's been awesome. And he has a player option in the offseason. Like, I wonder, he's probably going to opt out. Like,
oh yeah,
he has a chance.
What's it for? What's it for?
I haven't looked at the number yet. I just know that he has a player option. 18 million. Yeah, he's definitely
opting out. Yeah.
Which the Lakers would want him back. I would assume, depending on what they're going to do with those 3 first-round draft picks.
Right. I mean, I think they're going to go. I guess it depends on if they're successful in going and getting. I mean, Trae Young and Donovan Mitchell are the names, right? Those are the names the Lakers. It sounds like are going to target and try to get. And I wouldn't bet against them landing one of those guys if what they have to offer is enough. The Lakers will try, and the question will be: is there a better offer?
You think they try to go after DeJounte Murray again, like they were trying to before the All-Star break?
I don't think they think he's enough, or at least they didn't at the deadline. I mean, as I understand it, that was something they kicked around, but it wasn't the move they wanted to make. I think they'd rather have Trae Young. I
thought the Lakers didn't make that move because Atlanta wanted too much for him, and they weren't going to pay that tax.
Yeah, but I don't. I'm trying to remember. It's been. I mean, I should know because it's only been a couple months. But I think that was the thing where they talked about it, but it never got serious enough for that reason. But also, I think the Lakers want more, and I think they correctly decided if we just wait to the summer and we can trade more, we can get someone better than that. I think they want a star.
I think if you're the Hawks too, especially now that you've seen the team play considerably better, your defense has gotten much better, your offense has improved without Trae Young. I'd much rather build around DeJounte and move Trae because you can get a better price for Trae anyway. So works out both ways. Last one, and then we got to go. We talked about the 6, 7, 8 play-in the Eastern Conference. How do we feel about the Pelicans and the Suns jockeying for position right now? They have the same record, but the Suns have the tiebreaker. So the Suns are technically in the 6 and the Pelicans are in the 7, even though the Pelicans just went to Phoenix without Brandon Ingram, and Zion looked amazing and had a career high 5 blocks, including one on KD late in the game to win it. I think the Pelicans are going to squeak past them for the 6.
And don't the Suns have a tougher strength of schedule the remaining
They do.
few games? I would think that the Pelicans will be able to kind of finagle their way into that last spot. I do see the Suns, because of the strength of schedule, I see them losing maybe 1 or 2 games.
The Suns have Dallas, the Clippers, and the Kings.
I think they
And
have
somebody I'm missing.
Dallas. Dallas has been looking phenomenal. They're playing really well. The Kings can be hit or miss. Sometimes you get a Kings team that is very much, remnant of last year. And then sometimes you get a Kings team that just looks absolutely just so far away from that. I think they have the Clippers.
Yeah, New Orleans has Sacramento, the Lakers, the Warriors, and Portland.
Yeah, so I think Pelicans have a much easier schedule down the stretch than the Suns do. I see a couple losses, and I don't see them, running the table.
It is amazing. Maybe we'll talk about this tomorrow, Ash. It is amazing to me how a few weeks ago, correctly, we were talking about the Pelicans and the metrics at least suggesting they were a contender. And now we're wondering if they're going to be able to escape the play, and just how the margins for a lot of reasons are so outside of we'll see Denver, but outside of Boston and the rest of the East, generally the margins are so thin. It's really fun, but this is different than the NBA's been.
It's super fun.
Suns have Clips back-to-back, Kings and the Wolves.
Yeah, I mean those are all huge games.
This last week is going to be absolutely phenomenal. As I mentioned, we know all 10 teams, all 20 teams, all 10 teams in both conferences that are going to be in the playoffs. What we don't know is the seeding, aside from the Celtics being first. So this last week is going to determine a ton. And now we've wrapped up Monday's show. It's very exciting. We got one in the books. You guys are going to be back tomorrow. It's Ashley and Bill tomorrow. And then later on today at 6:15 Eastern, Bill and I will be on to preview this final week in the playoffs. We'll be on CBS Sports HQ, which is our streaming network. So if you're interested in checking that out, come and join us. But for now, for our NBA insider, Bill Ryder, for Ashley Nicole Moss, for the bird that is no longer with us, I am John Gonzalez.
Peace,
Rest in peace. Thanks for listening, everybody. Catch you tomorrow.